You are now tuned in to DameSmiff.
Yeah.
Test 1 2. Yo, what's good? Welcome to Musician Talks, episode 1 with DameSmiff. I'm here to talk to you guys about what's going on in the hip hop industry, the music industry, and what else. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe, follow, and leave a comment too. Make sure the audio is good and tap in if you want to. So today I wanted to talk about the union conversation with hip hop. There's a big conversation going on about what's happening to our artists as time progresses, because we're noticing a lot of the legends, they're starting to fall off, as we like to call it. And I think the source of the issue typically comes from preparation, lack of preparation actually. In most cases, like I'll give you my experience, as becoming an artist, the end result of an artist is very rarely talked about, especially from leaders in the artist world or the music industry. I'll be specific because it might be different for painters and sculptors, whatever. But for musicians, the end result, typically the conversation goes as far as protecting your art and making sure you don't get a bad contract or whatever. But that's not necessarily the case if you have a decent to successful musical career, because not everybody's going to make it to the, A-list celebrity list. Like, you're not going to be, there's not a Jay-Z in every city, there's not a 2 Chainz in every state, you know what I'm saying? So there's way more artists in the world than there are stars, if that makes sense. So why we need a union, to me, simply starts off with valuing the person first. Because in my experience, most of the artists that we value have given us something. And to that, it's more of a conditional, transactional type of relationship we have with artists. But when you look at how we view the art that they give us, it's almost as if it's, unattainable, untangible, perfect, shouldn't be touched, all kinds of like weird stipulations we put on the art than we do the person that created it. And so what I think a union would solve with that is providing not so much like a safe haven, but a safety net for artists who have to deal with the human factor of being an artist. Because not every time as a hip hop artist, even with like this current pandemic that we went through, you can't go out and perform and, perform your poetry or your art or your music in front of a crowd of people anymore without a brand new list of human factors that come into your artwork. So it changes, and it has changed how many artists view the creation of music, the performance of music, and also the distribution of music. Like, we've seen with digital streaming how we've gone from CDs and all that stuff to MP3s to just straight up streams. Like, people don't even own music commonly now. You pay a subscription for another company to give you access to a catalog of music where you only listen to your favorite songs. You know what I'm saying? You're paying for millions of dollars worth of music that you yourself would deem important to protect, but you only can support the music that you listen to. You see what I'm saying? So if you owned it, there would be more value to the person, because you don't have this kind of incentive that, hey, look, if I get my favorite songs, that's all I need in a list. I don't have to search or do any more extra curricular work to try to get the art that I want in my life. A good example of that would be like with the passing of DMX, unfortunately, rest in peace. It's a trend, but it's not just hip hop. We do this as a whole. When someone passes, we take their art and what it was for us and we internalize it. Whereas oftentimes when an artist is creating or in the moment or in the time, many of the the human factors of it we kind of dismiss. So for DMX, he was going through his issues as a human, and I've noticed, because I was a fan of DMX for very long, that the conversations about him started to kind of, get pushed to the wayside, simply because I think compared to the other artists of his age and the current age, just in general, what the music industry was demanding of its artists, he wasn't delivering. But that's not necessarily the fault of just the artist. You see what I'm saying? Like, if he was in a situation to where he could still have music or art, I would say art rather, because today most musicians aren't just making and recording music today. They're doing a lot more. But if he had a position where he could make art, still handle his business as far as, his family and what he needs to do, with the safety net of knowing that your art will be protected in the instance that you can't perform the art. There's no situation for that right now for artists in general. You have to be signed for that, and that would typically come with a contract with stipulations that is mutual between the record labels or whatever you're signed to. It could be an artist house or whatever, and the artists themselves. Now, why a union would be better than a record label, to me, is simply because there wouldn't be a conflict of interest between the amount of money you need to make to stay signed or to stay relevant or things like that. The purpose of the union would simply be that you can maintain and almost guarantee that this union will have a platform for you to protect, and possibly, if we can get to that point, make income from your art. But the problem that comes up with that is, well, who gets in? What kind of artists are we talking about? When you think about the signed artist, typically you think of the artist that has maybe like a 2-3 year, sometimes 5 year contract with a record label. They're getting a lot shorter now, but with the contracts, there's a lot of stipulations that if broken, everything is gone. Like, the whole contract is just null now. Like, if you're not making your payments on time, if you're not delivering music that's making your payments on time, if you're not keeping the correct relationships and respecting those relationships, your whole career is dependent on these factors. Comparing that to, let's say, the construction industry, whereas if you have a problem with your foreman or anybody that you work with, a union can step in and say, well, not really step in, but more so mediate your message that you're having issues with whoever or wherever you're working with, and they can step in and say, well, here's what we expect for someone that is a part of this union, because I'm not expecting hip hop to have one singular union, seeing as there's so many facets to hip hop and the different genres and subgenres that come out of it. But a union is supposed to step in and say, well, this is what we demand, or not demand, but expect for our workers. And if you don't meet it, you lose the employee. We already have situations set up for this artist to be well off until they find their next place of employment, or just go independent, because artistry can work both ways. But that's why in certain industries, there's a certain culture and a certain respect that you give to the people you employ. Like, if I work in IT and I know I have a guy who's doing like software maintenance, like he's just making sure my company's website and software and applications are all working properly, I'm going to make sure he's in a position where when it's time for me to demand that from him, that effort from him, he can give me 100%, because it wouldn't make sense to not ensure that, not maintain that, and not nurture that, and then expect him to give me 100%. So if my IT engineer is having problems at home, it's not my responsibility to fix them, but it is my responsibility to make sure he has the ability to fix it, if that makes sense. Because if I don't think he has the ability, or if I don't offer him any kind of recourse to how he can fix his issues or help his personal issues, like maybe recommend If he's having, stress or emotional issues, recommend therapy. Or if he's feeling kind of sluggish and, not really motivated to work, we can work on gym memberships. We can work on different, like, there's ways you can help people so that way you can get the best people to help you. So when it comes to the music industry, we're very capitalistic in the music industry. And it comes from this jaded idea of what the past was and what art is. It's a massive capitalistic venture because there's a lot of money in music if you position yourself in the right way. And people treat artists as though the person is the product, if that makes sense. Now, why I disagree with that approach with the music industry is because when you look at what has been done as how if you look at what's been done in the past as though those activities and actions done in the past are normal and are supposed to be regular and common because it was done in the past, you dismiss what's coming from the future and you dismiss what you can improve on. And the problem with that is you would leave a lot of people who don't think like you or don't function like you either on the wayside or you can't work with them yourself. And then the next thing, having a situation where you're only viewing artists as a commodity or a product, your relationships may not be short term because we've seen this before where a major record label will sign an artist young. They'll give the record label maybe 2-3 years of music, 2 albums, a couple hits. But 10 years down the line, I'm not going to say that far because that's a long time for anybody. Let's say they give a 5-year contract and by year 7, what is that relationship like? And what is it conditional off? Like, what is it based on? You see what I'm saying? If it's based on a contract, then you're looking at an industry of hundreds of thousands of people that intertwine, work with one another for what we generally all together see as the most valuable human, what's the word? I can't think of the word. It's well, we work with people on a short-term transactional basis that's idealistically founded in capitalism for something that we all deem to be more valuable than damn near life itself for some people. And I think that's where the disconnect lies in what's happening with our hip hop artists. A lot of our hip hop artists, they'll give us great beats, great songs, great lyrics, great one-liners, and great moments, dances, videos, TikToks, challenges, all this kind of stuff. A year later, the person who made it, we're not even concerned about what's going on with them. We don't need to. We don't want to. And if there is something going on, that's the entertainment because we've heard of you. We don't really care for you. We've heard of you. And that leads to a lot of realistic problems for people because what that turns into is now you have artists saying, especially during the pandemic, like, well, what am I going to do? I can't make music and expect my fans to purchase it because that's not what when we use the word fans, that's not really what fans are doing today. Today's fans are looking for a lifestyle and a kind of a relationship with their artists. But that's today. In general, that's not the case. Most people who consume music specifically, they're very not gonna say callous, but shallow. Like if it don't make them dance, they don't like it. It's not their frequency. They're not fucking with it. They're just not gonna do that. They have no reason to. But the people who like support and want an artist that provides kind of like a connection with them. Whereas I'll give you a good example. Wiz Khalifa, when he came out, it was kind of weird for some people because not everybody was smoking weed, and if you were smoking weed, you were in a box. But he created kind of a connection with the lifestyle he lived. Whereas he made smoking cool. he made smoking dope. He made good music about smoking. And it was kind of a thing where you kind of wanted to smoke with him. So with that, anything that's going on with him as a person, you're going to keep an eye on it, especially if you're into the things he's into. So the thing that Wiz had to come up with was, how can I turn this into essentially a movement that's bigger than me? Because if we keep it about me, there's no way that I'm going to be the perfect, I'm not going to be the thing that, I'm not going to be the flavor that everybody wants to taste every day. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just don't do that as a human. Variety is what we kind of strive for. There are some exceptions where people will be like, no, I fuck with this one artist. This is all I listen to. They give me everything I need. But that's not generally everybody. So what typically happens is an artist, they'll start to branch off into new things, where later we see Wiz Khalifa, he's doing, movie songs, where he did the Fast and Furious track. Stuff like that, he's awarded that opportunity because he understands and was, again, had the opportunity to capitalize on the movement that he made bigger than him. So when you do get an offer like that, which they only offer to people that can have this kind of power or incentive, it's successful. And so now he's looking at, again, bigger than him. What's next? As an artist, do you think Wiz Khalifa's next move is another album, another song, another single, or lyrics, or another product? Because what do you want from your artists in general? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not looking for Wiz Khalifa to give you the next poetic. You're not looking for Wiz to drop his To Pimp a Butterfly in 2022. You're not looking for that. So you're seeing a lot of artists, to push Wiz aside, you're seeing a lot of artists today turn to podcasting, which is a very good product generating machine. Like, you have content if you do it enough, daily, weekly, whatever. And you're seeing artists turn to obviously more merch. You're seeing hoodies go flying off the shelves. And you're seeing artists developing weed strains, liquor strains, sneakers. They're doing partnership deals. All of these deals have about, I'll say personally, 20% to do with the music industry. All those things that our musicians are doing to stay afloat, to make a living, they're not really making music to do that, if that makes sense. They're not, well, I won't say just making, they're not pushing music to do that, because we're not paying artists enough. We're not purchasing music, and we don't support artists longer than what they've given us. So, for those three reasons, I would suggest that is why we need to either develop a singular hip-hop union that represents at least the North American region at first, if we can branch out in chapters, or if you want to do it this way, the other way would be having like regional chapters. You have a Northeast in the U.S. chapter that covers maybe like the New York tri-state all the way down to the D.C. metropolitan area, all the way out to, I'll say Michigan. Why not? Then you'll have another chapter that goes from the Carolinas down to Florida, all the way out to Texas. Then you can have another branch that'll cover from Cali all the way to Chicago. And all the artists that will claim, because I'm speaking specifically for hip hop, all the artists that will claim to be hip hop artists should be able to affiliate. I haven't really thought of like, qualifications. I'm not too smart to be able to organize and manage a large group of people that big. The most I've been able to manage was about 5 or 6 people. But a basic stipulation that I could think of are maybe dues. The dues would have to be kind of expensive because of how the artists are viewed today. And the reason I say that is because a lot of artists do have money. They have money. They're making money. But the point is, with this union is that we want this money to be allocated to and from the music industry for artists and creators, not publishers, not record labels, not distributors, for artists and creators. And so what that'll do is that'll create an incentive for more art because more people will want to be a part, and it'll create an incentive to protect the person because you'll be able to identify the guy who's in the studio putting out 4 mixtapes a year, and you can tell he's doing it because the mixtape, or not even the mixtape, but the music represents him, versus the guy who's putting out 4 mixtapes a month, and he's doing it so that way he can keep his fan base happy. You see what I'm saying? You can't identify that today. You can't. I would dare you to try, but you can't identify that today. Some of your favorite artists today, from A-list all the way down, the reason they're putting out music is because you will buy it. They're not putting out music because there's something on their heart and they really need the world to hear it. When you get music like that, that's where you get the typically that you'll see. That's when you typically will get those shock jock songs where it's just like one topic, very linear, and you either agree or disagree with the song. You can't dance to it. It's not dynamic. But again, because of where we are with this industry and this particular genre, hip hop, it's very capitalistic. And if you are a capitalistic person, or at least, support that, you don't see a problem with putting out music simply for money. Now, if you're a capitalistic person, why would you put out music that you didn't deem to be artfully impactful, if that makes sense? Like if your album, say you have 10,000 retention rate for your music. Every time you drop, you can guarantee 9 to 10,000 record sales from your next full-length album. Why would you put it out if you didn't do your due diligence to make sure that it would withstand time? Money. That's the only reason you would do it. Because if I put this album out, if it's trash or good, I don't know how you would determine trash or good today. But if you were to put an album out and you can guarantee 10,000, why would you not do that? Because the album's trash? Who gives a fuck? You're getting 10,000 record sales. But with that mentality comes a plethora of oversaturation. Too many artists that aren't artists in the natural sense of the word. Like, you're not creating to represent anything. You're creating to make a product. So then, in turn, those 10,000 record sales you get, if you don't deliver, or if they just decide that, again, because the typical fan is not your fan, if they just decide that, nah, we're not really fucking with this sound anymore, we want a new thing, or you don't give us what we want anymore, like whatever you're giving us doesn't move us anymore. So now what do? You've been putting out records for that 10,000 record sale mark, or your goal. What do? Well, you can do one or two things. You can ask your fans, what do they want? Or you can say, I'm just going to do it anyway. Or you can quit. And you got examples of all three all throughout the industry. But the problem is, with that, is, like I said earlier, you can't identify who's an artist anymore. A lot of these artists are businessmen that can sing. A lot of these women are managers who can produce. And a lot of these record execs are fans who can manage. Now, the creator doesn't need any of these positions, titles, buildings, equipment, or anything like that to create. But what it does to have these things and these people around you is it puts you in a position to be able to facilitate your art to more people, but to facilitate your art in a procedural way that's been done before. So it's not, you don't have to think what do I have to do to promote this album? There's already a group or a department in your record label that's figured that out. So all we need for you is to make the product, which is your album, give it to us with a contract and with all the stipulations, and we'll put this much work into it, and the results are the results. But the problem with that is, once I give you the product, what's your use for me as an artist? Once my record label, well, let's put it this way, because a lot of people generally don't understand what goes into making, I'll speak specifically, a hip hop album. A lot of people today assume you go on YouTube, you type Kendrick Lamar type beat, you find it, you listen to a bunch, you go, dang, this is a tight beat. Hit the little YouTube dude, well, not little YouTube dude, most of these YouTube dudes are making a lot of money, but you hit the YouTube content creator and you go, hey, I like your beat. You may buy it outright from just one flat price, or you may lease it, or however you get the beat. You get the beat, and then you start writing. You go to a studio or your home studio like I have here, and you record your tracks, and you upload it to SoundCloud, and you wait. And if you know a little more, you may think, nah, you don't just wait, you got to promote. And what does that look like? You just copy your link, spread it everywhere, make flyers, tell everybody about your song. But what does that do? Tell everybody about your song. You got a song, a product. But how do you know it's working? You're getting plays. Your numbers are going up. But how do you know it's working? What's the tangible thing that you can calculate to say that this product is bringing forth, if your goal is revenue, is bringing forth the revenue? But how do you keep track of that? Well, you have to affiliate yourself with somebody as an artist. Like, you can't, there's no way, like, you would be doing the most, like, illegitimate business if you don't have a website as an artist, if you think that you could hand to hand your music till the day you die. Like, that would eventually, accounting would get messed up somewhere because of human error, or you would burn out because that's too much work for one person. So you have to affiliate yourself with someone. So as an artist, I'm explaining how you make an album as an artist so that it can be, publicly consumed. It's going to benefit you more to affiliate yourself with somebody. So for myself, I affiliated myself with ASCAP, the American Society for Composers and Publishers. And basically what they do is they facilitate the tracking of my royalties and how my music gets played and performed in public situations. And that's just for just performing the music. Without that organization existing for as long as it has, and the other ones that rely or that do the same, general practice, where would an artist in America go to produce, publish, and things like that, and make sure that they're getting their just dues in terms of a product? So similar to a union, specifically for hip hop, this would protect artists from having a situation where you're not hireable. You don't have a resume. Your resume goes as far as you fed us. So if you say tomorrow, if you're an artist watching this, you drop a song and this shit goes crazy. At least in your neighborhood, city, state, wherever. Shit goes crazy. And a record label looks at you and goes, wow, you're doing great. Let me help you. Let me help you. Right? And you sign to them. You do your 2-3 years. They were playing that single on the radio all crazy. The people are reacting because they're supposed to, because that's what the label's job is to put your product in front of as many people as possible. And once your 2-3 years is up, what can you put on your resume that can guarantee you your next gig? Because as a hip hop artist, your gigs typically don't come from you talking venue to venue and rapping like that. Like, that's like the 1990s where, like, you just walking down the street trying to tell people your poetry. Like, today, that's not how the industry works. Like, you got to be official through and through if you want to make sure you're getting your just dues as far as an artist. So what do you put on your resume after you've been signed and you've given them their hits and their money and things like that? Like, what tangible things can you say you bring a value to the next gig you get? So if your record label was first, like your own independent, your homie's label, after that situation dissolves, meaning, you broke it off on a good situation, but you just no longer work directly together. What do you do with the work you have done? And my answer to that is, I don't know. I don't know what you do after that. Like, try again with another building. That's what I've seen. I've seen a lot of artists after they get signed with their big record deal and that contract ends, they try to do it on their own. Because with artistry, sometimes you get an image, and your image gets attached to who you associate with heavily, especially in the entertainment industry. So, like, if an artist today decides to sign with Bad Boy and that contract dissolves, being signed to Bad Boy, you would have to bring a lot to the table to get signed to Def Jam after that. Who knows why, but you do. And when you do that, as an artist, based on what I've explained, what can you bring to Def Jam that would be better, if not different or unique, from what you give in your previous situation? Because that's what they're looking for. They're not looking for the guy who can do the job, because there's so many people who can just create music. That's what I mean by there's a lot of artists, but they're not looking for a guy that can do the job. They're looking for a guy who's going to come in, take over the building by storm, damn near, with the understanding that you won't alleviate any of your responsibilities to make them better. And it is your responsibility because you're the artist. That's the part that people don't explain in general, is that a lot of these music industry positions would not exist had there be no music to exploit. They would just be, it'd just be like 30 people in a building talking about what people like, and there'd be no reason to have that conversation. But for all these reasons that I give, what's going on in the industry now is why a hip hop union would be better, because a hip hop union would say, so you're an artist. We would, as a hip hop union, here's how I imagine it should go. You're an artist, right? We've been looking at your track record since senior year in high school, just like they do football players. You were in the concert band. We know what instruments you've played. We get a recommendation from your teacher or professors, possibly your principal. We check your GPAs. And then after that, if you graduate, we're just, as a union, because you're in the union, let's say 18, you're going to start looking at colleges. Or you might just go straight to work. Or you might go into the military. Again, this is the human aspect of an artist. Many artists don't expect to go out with their instrument in hand and expect people to come up and just pay them hundreds of thousands of dollars to sing or perform. So this is the human aspect of it. So you're about to graduate, but you are an artist. It's a fact. Like, you can tell who's an artist in school between who's the athlete, who's the engineer, who's the science kid, or who's just gonna go, put their hands in the dirt and work for the community. But so as an artist, you got to make that decision. Do I go to school? Do I go to work and start my musical career hitting the ground running? Or do I go to the military, get some stability at first? Well, for the union, what they'll be able to recommend you, or at least direct you and give you options for, is what you would be looking for as an artist when you go to college, or when you go to work, or when you go to the military. So I'll give you an example. I went to college. With college, you got to audition. Your union, the hip hop union, shouldn't prepare you for your audition. That should be on the artist to make sure they're doing their due diligence, as far as making sure they have lessons, making sure they have coaching, and making sure they're consistent with their talent. But that would come in the form of, the way the union can help would come in the form of facilitating either a list of, resources, or having one general resource for you. So like it could just be a studio that artists can rent out to practice or perform their art. I would limit it from creating and recording just to keep the legalities black and white. Like we don't want to make a union that's also a studio. Doesn't make sense. And then the other option would be to go straight to work. A union could help you understand as an artist what you need to bring to the table as far as what your artistry demands. Because artists do have a demand and needs for them to be successful. So if you're an instrumentalist, meaning you play trumpet, flute, viola, cello, whatever those things are, you play these things and this is how you make your living as an artist, or this is how you perform as an artist, it would make more sense for you to have the information to understand where this particular resource, which is your musicianship and artistry, is needed versus sending you out and hoping you find it. And there are resources like that out now. But the thing is, when we start talking about hip hop, it gets very blurry. So the reason I said instrumentalist at first is because there's symphonies, there's churches, there's bands, there's just groups of people who like to just bring instruments together and work on instruments and play and practice and teach one another. You can go back into teaching if you want to go to work. Like you can teach the instrument, you can teach new instruments and technology, like just similar to how the tech industry hires the new guy to tell you how the new Xbox controller works. Like you can be that guy, or you can just simply join a band, hop on the road, and put your work in with the people. But how do you do that as a hip hop artist who's 19 years old? Let's say you got your first mixtape and you have a crew. Maybe you got 2-3 friends of yours that make beats and maybe, work with y'all. How do y'all facilitate this into a lifestyle for y'all that's manageable, resourceful, meaning it's a benefit. Like you're not just a rapper just out here just rapping, you know what I'm saying? Like you're actually of benefit to the community and yourself and your team. And how do you turn that into something that's, because it's, at the end of the day, we all want to make money. How do you turn it into something lucrative? A lot of hip hop artists, because they are hip hop artists, don't know this because this isn't something that's mainstream information, because there's no such thing as a hip hop union. Like there's just, it's not a thing. And then as far as the military, which is again a human choice for people right out of high school, as a hip hop artist, where would you fit in that situation? Because the military makes it kind of different, because you have to adhere to certain cultural differences, and you have to adhere to the fact that you're now a part of something bigger than you. So yeah, you're a hip hop artist, but you're also serving something bigger than you. So how do you make a living as an artist doing that? Well, in the military, I know each branch has their own concert bands and marching bands. As a hip hop artist, where you could fit in there is you can learn the music theory of music and be able to teach, or you could be able to simply just join the band, learn an instrument, why not? But the way this could facilitate your hip hop career is you could use the benefits and income to support your art on the outside. You could still create, you could still do all those things, but the thing that's important is that your human aspect is taken care of. See, if you were doing, for the military example, if you were still a hip hop artist and you wanted to do all these things that the military is providing you, but you're not affiliated with the military, you would be in the hole just starting out. You would be coming out of your pocket to build your studio, to build your label, to build your album. You would be coming out of pocket for literally everything. But for some people, that's just not smart, or it's just not, they don't want to waste time having to, bootstrap themselves up to a musical career, which makes total sense and is a very reasonable choice. Some people got kids, man. But at the end of the day, there's nothing directing people to understand how to be successful as a hip hop artist in many of their life choices. But that is why I believe a union would be better. And another thing to understand too, as far as why artists create, most artists are creating as a reaction to the life that they've lived or experienced or what they've seen. So typically in hip hop, you'll get artists that are either in a situation that's not conducive to making money or living long. And that's simply because of just sheer circumstance. Like you'll hear many stories of artists being in situations that are just not, you wouldn't choose to be in them situations if you had the option. But with that, the music industry targets those people. And we can tell they target them because they're mainly the ones in the hip hop industry that we glorify. You can't name me. I'm gonna pick a big ass number because I know that y'all niggas can name a big ass number of rappers on the other spectrum. But you can't name me 35 rappers that were well off when they started and are still here and doing better than they were when they started. Meaning, when they came out, their debut single or song, when they came out, the things that they were rapping about wasn't hard times. They were having a good ass time in life. Like they had their shit together. And they understood that I got my shit together, but I also am an artist at the end of the day. You can't name me 35 people like that without going into like drug dealing and gang banging and shit like that. Because most of these situations where record labels are targeting these people, they're finding people that they know that they have more leverage than. People that have more leverage than them, it's a partnership then. They're not signing niggas all of a sudden. But the reason that's important to point out why artists create is because you kind of get a clear line of what the union in hip hop should represent. The union in hip hop doesn't represent the person who's creating music and distributing music for the sole purpose of notoriety and publicity. It's not a tool for the people who would be a part of a union for hip hop and for the hip hop genre, because the basis of hip hop is originality. So you're to say that I'm making music to make money comes off disingenuous if you know what the music industry is about. The music industry is not about originality. It's not about uniqueness. And it's not about taking a stand on something that most people don't even acknowledge or see or take a stand against as well. I'll give you an example of the obvious one, gangster rap. When gangster rap came out, it was like, what is this? This is shocking. This is different. We can't support this. That's how the industry was talking about gangster rap when it first came out. But once the few people who were legit in gangster rap started to become more lucrative, that's when the rats and snakes started coming out of the music industry. The meaning the people that have always been there since the 40s. This is not new. But they would come out and they'll say, this is making money. What is this? Somebody in the gangster rap and hip hop genre explains it to them. Then they find their position in how to make their own money on it. So then you get managers and different things coming along. A&R comes along and starts deciding what is going to make them money. Not what's the hardest song, who got the best lyrics. They're not looking for that. They're looking for the nigga who's out here consistent in his art, meaning he's making art, but he's reeling in opportunities. I'm not going to say money because a lot of artists aren't making mad money by themselves, but at the end of the day, what a record label looks for is opportunities. So if you're doing gangster rap and you're doing 500 people shows, it's like, okay, we got something we could work with here to make money. You know, you don't have the money to just hand it to me, but you have an opportunity for me to exploit this situation so that way I can make more money. But that turns into, well, damn, I'm not a gangster rapper. And my homie Cody from Northern California, he's not a gangster rapper, but he's in the gangster rap scene as a photographer, as a roadie, as an accountant. Like all these jobs that just surround the product, which is the music. And so you get more people going, well, I can't jump on the NWA bandwagon. I can't jump on the Bay Area bandwagon. I damn sure can't go all the way to Georgia and jump on their bandwagon. There's a cultural difference. So what the music industry will do is they'll grab a person who has the image of a gangster rapper. He might actually be gangster. He might just be some street nigga, and they'll be like, all right, let's see what you can do. What are your talents? What can you bring to the table? And in the pretense that he knows, the person that they're grabbing, that he knows there's an opportunity to make a lot of money here. Not that he's a gangster rapper who really want to get some shit off his chest. Life is hard and he's looking for an outlook. No. Some of these people are desperate, man. They need their bills paid. And these people who I'm explaining are trying to eat off this particular subgenre of hip hop know this, and they use that to their leverage. So they'll offer you just any number of money that just sounds crazy to you at the time. Like if your bank account has $10,000 in it, if I put 2 more zeros in front of that, you would go nuts if I decided to just put that in your account in the next month. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, they were getting these people with an image, putting them in front of the camera, hiring other people to make the music, putting the music in front of this dude. This dude says his lyrics, package it up, make it look beautiful, put it in front of you on your TV, and pay BET, MTV, Viacom, all these people. Say, this is our product. Push it. Now you sitting at home, eating your Cheerios, with your oat milk, you chilling with your kids. You go, what's on BET? You turn on BET, 106 and Park comes on, and they go, oh, we got this new record by random nigga that we've never heard of before. He gets on lights, flashy cars, jewelry, booties, thongs, all kinds of shit going on. And the savvy consumer would be like, well, what is this? Who is this? Why and what is this? But typically, most people don't give a fuck. They're still eating their Cheerios, just looking at the TV like this is what's going on in the world. Like, I trust you. BET, 106 and Park, Viacom, record label, music industry, nigga. I don't really have any investment to look deeper. So then, that guy that I'm not going to say built into an artist, but that guy, that's the artist, when he realizes the human factor of himself and say, man, I'm not really trying to be the nigga I was when y'all found me until the nigga I'm gonna be. Until, like, if you found me at 21 and I was in the streets rapping and a record label signs me and provides me an image, like I'm not coming to them with much leverage, like they're leveraging themselves. By year 8 of my career, humanity is going to kick in. I'm going to change, either for the better or for the worse. So I'll give you an example of the better. So if that guy decides he wants to create something different, he's been making hip hop for 4 years, and he's done it successfully with the help of his record label and the industry. But he all of a sudden realized, hey, I just found out my grandfather was a jazz musician. I want to learn guitar. Who and where do you go to facilitate that idea and make it successful? Your record label that sells this product has no idea how to sell jazz music to your demographic as a hip hop artist. They don't know how to do it. And the reason I can tell you they don't know how to do it is because they just don't do it in general. Whenever a genre's done, the genre's done. They're not going back, keeping it alive. They'll do a greatest hits on Wow 100, but that's about it. That's, again, a money grab. So what does that artist do as a hip hop artist? Well, the first thing people usually suggest is take off the adjective hip hop. And I don't think that's fair, because that would mean that hip hop is whatever you want to call it at that moment. And that's not correct. That's not how you title something. Like, you're not a dad because your kids call you dad. You're a dad because you have kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just doesn't work like that. And I know some titles are different. Like, people, they get hung up on their work rank, or they might get hung up on like a position they play in a sport or whatever and shit like that. But at the end of the day, when we're talking about hip hop, that's not a it's not just a genre of music. Like, these are people who, it's a lifestyle. Like, these people are living, talking, and dressing a certain way that doesn't fit in most situations. Like, I'm not gonna go, "What's up, my dog," and dap you up if I'm at a brunch in San Francisco talking to a bunch of like non hip hop listening, you know, snobby people. Like, it just doesn't fit here. It just doesn't. So why would I then not call myself hip hop if I, in this thing? I'm still hip hop. I just decide to talk to you differently. You know what I'm saying? So if this artist wants to learn jazz and wants to, learn a new instrument and thing like that, there's nothing really there for them to facilitate or transition into another genre, because jazz record labels, highly competitive, a lot of people, it's kind of similar. And it's not the, poke at anybody who's doing jazz or anything like that, but it's just to say that typically for hip hop, as it pertains to the transition of different positions and jobs in the music industry, there's very little room for you to move musically. Most hip hop artists start a new product. Like, they just don't do music anymore. It's like music hits a plateau for them, and that's it. So then this brings us to, what's the benefit of artists? Like, what's the point of making hip hop music if eventually you're going to burn out, people aren't going to fuck with you, record labels aren't going to hire you because you're not hireable, meaning you're not going to bring any benefit more than the new guy. And what, yeah, like, what need would you have in society existing as a particularly hip hop artist? So I think the key to that is understanding, as an artist, if you're an artist out there watching this, as an artist, you have to understand your place in society. Your place in society is not to be a star. Your place in society is not to be the biggest musician. Your place in society is not to make money. Everybody wants to be a star. I don't care who you are. You can be the dirty, corrupt cop planting drugs on people. You want to be a star. Or you can be the janitor that's been working the same job for 30 years. You want to be the best at what you do, no matter what it is. The people who don't and actively say, "I don't want to be the best at what I do," they want to be the best at that. But you have a place in society that helps determine your benefit and your effort as an artist. So a good example, just to be general here, would be the busker. That position can only really be played by a person who is in it for the artwork and the musicianship of it. Because as a busker, it's kind of like doing hand-to-hand sales, or if you're like a street vendor or things like that. You're not really in a position to guarantee much. You're not affiliated, you're not structured, because you're busking. You're just busking. What busking is, for those of you who don't know, is simply going out on the street with your instrument or your band and performing for people, street performing. Busking is kind of particular to music because, like, you can juggle in the street, but I can't buy your juggle performance. You see what I'm saying? So busking is a place in society where the everyday person who's just walking around going to work, they have an opportunity to kind of cut in that reality. So if you're busking and you're playing one of the top songs of the time, somebody's walking by and they just happen to see you or hear you, you kind of provide them this feeling of like joy. Or I mean, they may be annoyed because you're loud or you suck, but you provide a change, an emotion that wouldn't have been there in society had you not taken that position. Because most people don't have the will and the integrity to just stand in front of people and just perform. Because a performance is very, very intimate, and it's very, what's the word I'm trying to think of? it's exposing. You're very vulnerable when you're performing. And so with that, to see somebody be vulnerable where the rest of the world, that we're all putting on our suits and our hats and brushing our hair, making sure we look good to protect ourselves from the idea of being vulnerable. It's a breath of fresh air to see that sometimes. But that place kind of gets distorted when you start to apply societal views of how a person is supposed to live versus an artist. So a person would never in the right space of their mind think, okay, I work at McDonald's. Let me just go down to the street and see if I could just sell burgers. You wouldn't do that because there's just no facilitation for you to do such a thing unless you have a little kitchen. You got to get licensed. Your food's got to be good. You got to know how to cook. There's a lot of shit that got to go into that. Whereas if you're an artist, you could work at McDonald's but have a song on your heart. Go down to your local metro, stand out there for an hour and sing. And you can make money because you have the talent as an artist to do so. Now I know what you're thinking. Well, shit, I sing in the bathroom. Why can't I just go down the street and sing down the street and get some people to donate to me or just throw some cash at me? It's because you're not good. Artists are good at what they do because it's what they do. It's not necessarily a thing of ability. Like I'm sitting in front of a piano right now. There's a lot of keys on here. I could turn it on and push buttons. But for it to be called music and art and things like that, I have to know what I'm doing. I can't just push buttons. There's a theory to it, a science to it that's bigger than me. Like I learn my little portion and I do what I do with it. But that affords me the luxury to be able to call myself an artist because I've done the work to learn what I'm good at. Now, if this same artist decides, all right, this busking shit is not working. I can't make a living like that. You can make good money busking, especially if you're in a good city, but it's not enough for me to do what I envision my artistry to look like. Maybe you envision your next not your next, but your biggest performance to be Jesus from Kanye, like on a mountain, indoors, snowing with rain, fire, and minions and goblins everywhere, and lights. How do you get there? What are you doing? You're 19 years old, you're on the street with your guitar and you're singing your favorite songs. People are throwing you 20, 40, 50, $100 here and there. How do I get to that point? Well, the answer isn't concrete. And I'm not just going to just give it to you in like 3 sentences and then you get up and go do it and now you're Jesus. But at the end of the day, as an artist, this is a very, very, very common question. Like, what am I doing right now? Why is this even a part of my life right now? Well, you have to look at the power you have as an artist. So as an artist, most of your power comes in, it sounds weird and it sounds spiritual, but vibrations, vibes. You got to kind of live in a duality a little bit. So you have to understand that, all right, if I need money, art doesn't make money. The music industry understands this, which is why artists are in the position they're in. Making and creating art doesn't make money. Exploiting a product makes money. So this is where the busker comes into a very, 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 poignant moment where you have to realize, okay, I am an artist. I can perform. I can, whatever your talent is, I can do that thing, right? But how do I turn this thing that I do, this talent, into a product? And that's where your power lies. Because you as an artist, you have a creative bug where you can understand that this thing in my head doesn't exist anywhere else. And that's where all your value comes from. So if you're, again, busking on the street, let's say you play guitar. The guitar is a great instrument just in its own as far as artistry because of all the utility it has as an instrument. So if you're playing an electric guitar, now I'll stick with acoustic because let's say you're busking on the street and you don't got electricity. If you're playing an acoustic and you want to get to the big leagues, you have to touch the people. We're the people. Well, you're on the street. That's cool. But what about the guy who doesn't walk the street to work? What about the girl who doesn't leave her house because she's a makeup artist or a gamer or something like that and you need her to see your music? So now you got to facilitate your power, which is to create. So when you create your product, what is it? What do you want your product to be? What are you giving the people? Well, what you're giving the people typically is not music. You're typically giving them a reflection or a lifestyle, and sometimes just a moment. Like you get some songs, like especially in hip hop, where it's just good energy, just high energy, dancing, high vibes. That's all it was. There wasn't really much to it. Then you get some songs like DMX Slippin'. That song is gonna resonate with people in a way that they're probably gonna add value to that song more than you would expect because it's, your song. But that's where you have product. You have a song now. You can play the music as an artist to create a song, and then you can make a collection of songs to turn into your product. Now, typically, some people be like, oh, if I get 10 songs, that's an album, things like that. But this is where your creativity comes in. You have to also add in innovation and a little bit of consistency, because the consistency and innovation, they're kind of intertwined. Like, let's say you make an album, 10 songs, and you put it out. Your fans may be like, well, if you have, let's say not fans, you don't have any fans, you're just busking on the street, but you went to the studio with your busking money and you recorded yourself an album, and you have an album. Now you're back out here busking. So now you have a 10-song album. Now you're in a position to say, because you're an artist, you're in a position, you have no record label, you're just on the street. You just recorded an album, you got the masters, and you copywritten, and you did your due diligence to say you have a product, right? Now you're in a position to say, excuse me, sir, ma'am, this is the album that I've created as an artist after you see me performing or during the performance or whatever. And as an artist, you can set your price. Now, this is where, as an artist, you have to step out of being an artist at this particular moment, because you have to understand the market. So if you're going to tell somebody, here's 10 songs, and they're all like, say like 3 minutes, regular song length. What price do you expect this person to be okay with to come out of their pocket? And this is, again, where you have to look at it as a human and not an artist. An artist is going to say, oh, my shit is perfect. This is like the best art in the world. Here, take this. It's going to change your life and things like that. But as a human, you're like, I've heard this story millions of times. You told me that about Teletubbies. You told me that about Beanie Babies, the internet.com. This is supposed to be the biggest thing in the world. And this guy standing on the street at 19 with an acoustic guitar handing me a fucking CD in 2021 is supposed to be the new thing. Nah, I don't believe it. So now, as a businessman, you got to understand how to make this product that you have more valuable. And the way you do that is with your ingenuity and innovation and consistency. So there's different business practices you can approach there. But again, that's not an artist's mindset to do this. If you're thinking strictly as an artist, it's going to be kind of difficult to navigate this without help. But you have the power to name that price. And a good example of that would be when Nipsey Hussle did his $100 product. I don't remember if it was an album or a mixtape, but I think it was about $100. People were buying those in bulk. You haven't heard it before. There wasn't an option before streaming and things like that where you could kind of taste test music. You still had to kind of place your purchase and then hope, well, not really hope, but facilitate or mitigate people into purchasing your product and making sure it's of value to them. But that's the power you have as an artist, even as a freaking busker sitting in the street. Like, you don't know who you're talking to when you're on these streets. And that's where you come into your network. Why is it important to have, I'll talk about 2 points. Why is it important to have an artist in your network? And why is it important as an artist to have a network. So I'll start with, it's important as an artist to have a network because your art, again, is bigger than you, and it's bigger than whatever the product is. You see what I'm saying? Like, you don't make a painting hoping that this one painting is art. You make a career out of painting where all your paintings are art. That's all encompassing art of you. So, as an artist, it's important to have a network because you will know so much information about yourself as an artist if you utilize your network correctly. So, for example, I myself, when I was in a band, our networking came in so many different ways that was kind of weird. Like, you would be talking to somebody who works at a restaurant, and this dude will tell you, yeah, I play bass. You're looking for a bass player, and he'll say, I play bass. You go, oh, really? Wow, that's cool. How long have you been playing? And all those other things. You do the little quick, introductory interview part. But he can't perform right now because he's working. He's got a family. He's trying to do his, again, human aspect. But he is an artist. You just found out he's an artist. But having him in the network, meaning having his phone number or contact information, is good because you may need a bass player one day. So me as a piano player, I may have another person in my network along with the bass player that plays drums. I technically have a band here if I can coordinate schedules. Technically, I have a trio sitting right here, and we can do a lot of work with these three instruments depending on how much consistency we put into practicing and things like that. But there's power in that. That's three people. That's three people combined with the example I gave with busking, where y'all can make products and perform it and name your price. There's no label. As long as y'all can maybe find lawyers between the three of y'all and keep y'all agreements, legal and mutually beneficial. That's a beautiful marriage to have. But that's just on the basis that y'all have the ability and talent to facilitate music. Y'all don't have to have any credentials to work with each other. You don't have to have any stipulations or obligations. Like I said, your bass player, he has a job. But when y'all come together for music, you have the opportunity to name your price and possibly work the market of music and get yourself into a better position where your bass player is working with you full time. Same with your drummer. Now y'all have a band, technically a label, and a publishing company where y'all can put out product to the people that want to purchase it. And that can be done in weeks, months, years. I think the bigger thing to focus on is the end result. Like, when stuff starts pushing 7, 8 years and, you're not making any progress as far as artistry, it's time to start really thinking about, like, a different way to approach it as far as what your goals are. But it's super easy as an artist because we have so much power as artists. But the reason we give it up so easily is because we are lazy. Yes, lazy. A lot of artists here, I'll say in America, because in America, the music industry is intertwined with so many different other industries that musicians aren't the first at the forefront. So you get a lot of people who don't know music theory, don't know music history, meaning like you don't know why certain things in music are the way they are. And the other reason is a lot of people in the industry are not in it for music. Like, again, it's just an opportunity for them to, make money. So with that said, what's the benefit of you, non-artist, to having an artist in your network? Well, I would think personally that the benefits of that would be if you're in a position where you need something done creatively, that can be your first resource, the person who, is creative professionally. Or you can have a situation where, specifically, let's keep it on hip hop artists. If you have a hip hop artist in your network, there comes a bit of notoriety with the word hip hop, and there comes a bit of notoriety understanding that this person is an artist. But that brings value to you as a non-artist, because when you have certain events or things going on, or if there's just certain vibes that you need, you can call upon this person professionally as an artist. As a person, that's totally different, because again, artists and people, they're two different things. This person could be, excuse me, this person could be like a club promoter to, like I said, working at McDonald's on fries. But them being an artist, them working those jobs doesn't diminish their talent level as an artist, unless their talent level just doesn't succeed their work talent. But that's where their value can come in for you as a person. Having people like this around you too brings value in your notoriety. We've seen it done with celebrities, but there is kind of a notoriety to just knowing some musician somewhere, because it's a rarity to know somebody who's good at an instrument, let alone plays one. But that's how that can help you. Now, as an artist, to flip it back on the artist, how can artists help improve society? Like, with the role that I've explained that artists have in society, how can they be or improve their contributions to society? I think the first way that an artist can do that is to learn how to take responsibility versus just having responsibility. So, for example, rest in peace, Black Rob. Black Rob, when I first heard of him, was his Whoa single, and I was young. Loved the song when I first heard of it, and I never heard of him since. It was like he just went off the radar, and it wasn't until probably about weeks ago where I think the world kind of got to see what he's been up to. Not necessarily the people that know him closely and work with him and have been with him this whole time, but I think a general view of him was finally had weeks ago. And people, I kind of saw it happening. This was, again, social media. I'm not directly talking to any of these people, but I saw it happen where when we as artists got to kind of see where he was in the world and in his life, we took action. We took responsibility. So I've seen people, I'm not going to name them because I don't really know the affiliation between the people who were involved, but I've seen people start GoFundMes. And then I went to the GoFundMe myself as an artist and donated. And I've seen the donations coming in. And these were people who were artists, non-artists, dropping hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, meaning that we see him and we appreciate him. And we feel that he's needed and he's of value to society because of his contributions. It wasn't just some heartfelt, let's do something nice for somebody. No, I personally feel that the artist community was trying to take responsibility for taking care of their brother at the time. And it's actions like that that I think make the community stronger. On a lighter example, you could see it happen today more, where you're seeing artists not start their own record labels, but they're just collaborating. Like, they don't need to do these types of situations where we got to sign a contract to do a single, to push a video. Like, we don't need to do that. We're in the same city. You're an artist. I'm an artist. You got your fans. I got my fans. It doesn't take us more than like $300 to link up and put in some work to make a product that we both can benefit from. Like, why are we making this so muddied up? But that would be taking the responsibility and saying, I'm going to take full responsibility if this does go wrong. So if we do a single and it flops, it was my responsibility. The song was trash. A lot of people can't take that, especially when you're dealing, like, I named $300. There's some people are putting up tens of thousands of dollars to put one nigga's verse on their beat. Like, it's ridiculous what niggas is doing. But at the end of the day, that's what they want to do. But I think, again, me making a video like this is an attempt at it to take responsibility for artists, to kind of understand that this is bigger than you as an artist, like you, nigga, watching you. If you're gonna be in this hip hop industry, you gotta stop thinking that you, singular 2-foot having person, is the star of the entire genre of humans coming out. You know how that's not even a competitive mindset. That's just dumb. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, it's like saying Kendrick Lamar is sitting somewhere in his house thinking he's done. He did it. He beat hip hop. Like, no. Many legends are still out here, and many resumes have yet to be beaten. have yet to have been beaten. And with that said, you kind of have to understand that going in as an artist, that you're never gonna be the one singular nigga that defeated hip hop or mastered hip hop. Like, you kind of have to jump in the pool and ride the current with the rest of us. Some may drown, some may float, but that's where you as an individual must ensure that you stay afloat. But me as an individual, I can take responsibility to make sure you float as well. Now, I may not leverage you to be better than somebody, but as far as you being an artist and me taking responsibility in the fact that we're both artists, then I at least believe that I owe you the responsibility to say, look, I need you to put your best foot forward for you. Because if you don't, that leaves you in a position of fucking up your life, fucking up your family, fucking up your money, which in turn makes me look bad and makes artistry look bad. Now, this is where capitalism rears its ugly head. If you're not making enough money as other artists, oftentimes artists pull out the human aspect of them and say, well, what have you done for me lately for me to take responsibility for your failures or your missteps? And I think that's where we get it kind of fucked up, because, again, going back to, if you know the history of music and you know what's been going on in the hip hop industry for a long time, you would understand that what that sentence right there, what have you done for me lately, does to an artist is it ostracizes them. It means that there's nothing you can do. There's nothing, because what have you done? It's not, what will you do? It's not, I'm going to help you now, in the expectation that that's not what you just said. What happens is, you often tell artists that you missed the target and that's it for you. You're gone. Like, not necessarily gone, but I'm not going to fuck with you. And if you're a prominent person in your area, or if you're the venue owner of a certain prominent club, what's your other option? Your relationship with this person is now not based in artistry. It's now based in humanity. It's like, you're just not of benefit to me. You can be a cool guy or a cool girl and to hang out with, and you can come buy tickets at the concert, but I'm not going to step out of my way or disrupt what I'm doing to, help you with your missteps. And I think that's missing in a majority of artists. Like, it's not bad to have that mindset, because some people are just lackadaisical. They don't have the work ethic, even though they are artists. They just don't have it in them to, either complete the task or complete it correctly or to complete it respectfully. So with that being said, you got to understand the balance between taking responsibility and having responsibility. I think people, when they start to get some kind of success in the music industry or in entertainment in general, again, success to me in the music industry is full independence. Like, all right, you getting gigs, but if you're not fully reaping the benefits of this, you're kind of working. You're just working. Like, you're not a thing. You're just working, in my opinion. So with that said, when I've typically seen artists get to a certain point where it's like their career is kind of automated, where they don't really have to think about certain aspects of their career, it's mind-boggling for that particular person to have to understand what an artist who's fully independent has to do. Like, it's mind-boggling to have to book your own shows, buy your own clothes, or, you know, the same car you drove 4 years ago is the car you're bringing to the show type shit. Like, some artists, that's weird for them because it's not hard for people nowadays to automate their careers, especially with all these other facets of opportunity for people to make money off of music and musicians. So you can rent cars, you can buy props for your videos, you can get discounts on music videos. There's a lot of ways you can do this if you got the resources. But for somebody who doesn't have the resources or is coming upon their resources, this can be mind-boggling for somebody with all these resources on how much work you really have to do to maintain an artist. So that's why I feel that it's a bit of a duty in society to protect one another as artists, as people, and also as people. Like, you know, you see an old lady down the street and she trips and falls. You should, mean ass nigga, go get her up and help her and walk her to her destination. Same with an artist. If I see an artist who's going through a health issue and I'm not a doctor, like I can't go in there and pull the sickness out of their body. But if all they're asking for is a monetary donation, it's like, really? Like, how much more work do I think I'm doing? Like, it's just to send anything, like, you know what I'm saying? But some people don't view it that way. And I think if we had a majority of people, not even a majority, a growing majority, maybe 45% of artists in hip hop that thought like this, just off the pretense that you're an artist, not because you're a good artist or you're dope or you're a legend or an OG or things like that. No, you're just literally another musician from my city or my county, and you're working. You're hitting the studio. You're living your life. Like, you may have a job or a side hustle, but you're putting out product, meaning music. Making your art. I think as an artist, I have a duty to help you. Like, I've helped artists in DC where it's like, you don't have to pay me. Payment wasn't even in the conversation. It was just simply, I see you working. Like, you're in here rehearsing with 6-7 people in a band, but I have things I can offer to this. Or I've been in situations where it's like people, they're doing shows and things like that, but they don't have their publishing together. Like, they don't have Spotify and BandCamp or YouTube set up and things like that. You don't have to pay me. I will come along. If I see you working, I will put in that work for you to make sure, I can facilitate wherever I can fit in. I may not be able to, sign you $100,000 deal and make sure your studio is set up, but fuck it, I can do what I can, and it's my duty to. And lastly is just to take action on these things. A lot of artists, they feel their the version of taking action is to do what they've been doing, but to involve the issues of the world around them. Again, as an artist, your job is to reflect. So if you understand that someone's going through something, or a group of people, maybe your country is going through something, and you're a hip hop artist, it doesn't benefit you to just make a song about it. It doesn't benefit the people. It doesn't do anything. The way you take action is as an artist, fine, fuck it, you made a song, but take that feeling you have and put it into an actual effort to finding a solution to whatever it is you're making a song about. So for example, I'll give you My Son and Bun B and Trey the Truth. They're a good example of what I'm explaining right now, where an artist takes action with the responsibility they have as a person and an artist. If you go through their but their catalog of music from the past 6-7 years, maybe all three of them, you'll notice that typically they're not putting out a lot of music, but when the music comes out, it's dense, full of what they've been up to as an artist, be it protests, marches, speeches, just corralling around people, delivering food to different distressed areas and things like that. They're doing those things in order to provide substance to the product that they will eventually give to the people that they're networking with in these situations. Like, if I have another example that's not as, dark, Currency, the rapper Currency. If he's rapping about all the things he's rapping about and we never see him in a nice car or a nice jumpsuit or t-shirt or hoodie, it would look kind of weird. If you're like, where is this coming from? Like, why are you talking like this? Where are you getting all these numbers and things from? Well, if you look at him from his entire career, who he's been standing next to and affiliating himself with kind of lays in line with the music he's putting out. So those people he's connecting to physically in the real world can digest the music a way easier. But then somebody like me who comes along who's nowhere near that scene, I don't own a lowrider. When I first started listening to Currency, I didn't even smoke weed. It was like, this dude is so cool and different that I just want to see more of it. And then when you start to see more of it, you're like, he's not even the star. Like, he's just talking about where he is in the world type shit. But again, that again to me brings value to him as an artist, because you can put that man in a situation where he's on the Grammy stage and he's singing his music, doing his thing. You know for a fact that as an artist for the Grammys, that brings value to the Grammys because of who he is and what he brings with his network, and how his network, or the culture that he's in, being like the people in his lifestyle and the cars and the money and things like that. Those people are of value in society in general. So when those people come fuck with him and he's on the Grammys, it's not going to do anything else but boost him up and make him look great as an artist. And then again, the cycle continues. He has to he has to take responsibility with that power and take action and do something with that and bring value back to his network, or himself, but essentially his network, because it's bigger than him. But I say all this to say that this is why we need a hip hop union. Because I named very, very different facets of success, very different facets of types of people, but the only common denominator was that they were artists. And there's nothing protecting the artists of hip hop. Like, we can sit up here and make stipulations like, oh, if you rap, you're an artist. It's like, okay, but no, it's not true, because that's an act. It's just you doing a thing. That's like saying these YouTube guys that do YouTube freestyles, parodies, they're artists now. No, they're not. They're just content creators that are doing an act. It's like if I were to get up and do the Dougie, it's like, you can't call me a dancer now. It's not how that works. You may want it to work like that, but that's not how it works. But yeah, I think that the union for hip hop would bring benefits that we couldn't foresee, because of the culture we have now. It's so individualistic that you couldn't imagine a world where 30 West Coast rappers decide that, you know what, we're not making music today. We're not making music this year. Why? Because we've seen on the East Coast how the majors are treating this artist. And so with that said, the West Coast, we're going to have to suffer with this artist, because it's not fair that this literally one artist has to suffer through what they're suffering through. And it could be something like a record label is maybe withholding their album for some arbitrary reason that's known to the public. I mean, unions can't move off of hearsay and feelings, but if you can tell that an artist is in a shitty situation, and you know that power of the people is more beneficial for this person to find a solution than having to have to wait for the legalities or the bureaucracy to get done. We see it all the time with protests and things like that when it comes to workers unions, that this shit gets shit done. Like, you can't function as an industry without human labor, without the human factor. They try to make it automated, but that's stupid. You're dumb. You as a human are trying to replace yourself. You sound stupid trying to do that. But it just doesn't make sense right now to imagine a world where the top artists are stopping what they're doing, not making money willfully, and not putting out product for the people willfully in order to make a change for another artist. So hopefully that this video doesn't come off as like kind of like divisive, but more so informative. But that's everything for me. I don't have anything else to talk about. I just want to get that off my chest. So yeah, you can go ahead and follow, like, subscribe. I'm gonna be on here every day at 9 talking about different stuff. You can tap in, hit in the comments. I'm going to download this, edit this, upload this on YouTube, and that's where you can find this conversation and, leave a comment in below. And also join the Facebook group, DameSmiff Productions on Facebook. You can follow me personally on Facebook. You can text me, you can message me, whatever, I don't care. But if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them below in the comments. And that's it for me, y'all.